I found the old television at a yard sale on a street that looked like it hadn't seen life in years. Dust clung to the porch rails, the grass had grown wild, and the woman running the sale hardly looked up as I carried the set to my car. It was heavy, the kind with dials instead of buttons, a box that seemed to hum faintly even when unplugged. She sold it for $5. "It works," she said, "sometimes too well." Then she smiled in a way I didn't like and turned away. I should have left it there. That night, after hauling it into my apartment, I set it on a low stand against the wall. I hadn't owned a television in years, and part of me liked the idea of using it as decoration, something retro and strange. I plugged it in. When I turned the dial, the screen flickered. No channels came in, just snow, the static of a dead signal. The hiss filled my apartment, harsh and unrelenting. But after a moment, I thought I saw something in it. The static swirled, blurred, and then settled. A faint shape, a darker patch in the whiteness. The longer I stared, the more it resembled a face. A man's face, blurred, incomplete, as though the fuzz had carved the outline of his features. He didn't move, he didn't speak, but his eyes seemed fixed on me. I laughed nervously, told myself it was my imagination. A trick of the mind, like seeing shapes in clouds. I switched it off and went to bed. But the next night, I turned it on again, and there he was, closer. The fuzz shaped his features more clearly. Sharp cheekbones, hollow eyes, lips stretched into a faint smirk. He looked like he knew me. This time I couldn't look away. My apartment felt too quiet without the static, so I left it playing in the background. Hours slipped by while I sat at the table, pretending to read. Every time I glanced at the screen, his face had shifted. His smile seemed a little wider, his gaze more intent. By the third night, I was dreading it. But curiosity won. The face came clearer now, almost sharp. His expression was wrong, too human and not human enough. He tilted his head the way people do when they study something fragile. I thought of a cat watching a bird through glass. That was the first night I noticed the noises. I was brushing my teeth when I heard the soft creak of a floorboard in the living room. I froze, foam on my lips, and listened. Another creak, like a step. I rushed out, heart pounding. The room was empty, except for the TV, still glowing. And on the screen, the man was grinning. The creaks stopped. The next night, the noises returned. A tap at the window when his head twitched. A hollow knock on the wall when his eyes shifted. It was subtle at first, easy to dismiss, but soon the pattern was undeniable. Every sound in my apartment synced with him, a soft thump as his lips curled into a sneer, a faint rustle when his eyes rolled upward. Even my own breath seemed to echo in the static, as though he were breathing with me. I turned the set off, but the screen glowed faintly for several seconds, his face still visible in the dim haze. Watching, always watching. I tried not to look at it anymore. Days passed, restless and fractured. I caught myself glancing at the unplugged TV whenever I crossed the room. Sometimes I swore I saw movement in the glass. Just the briefest flicker of static, like the hum of a thought pressing against the barrier. One night I woke to the hiss of snow. The television had turned itself on. The man's face filled the screen, sharp now, every feature clear. He wasn't smiling anymore. His lips were pressed tight, his eyes cold and hollow, as though he was tired of waiting. And then I heard it. Breathing. Not from the TV, from behind me. I spun, but the room was empty. When I turned back, his mouth was open, wide and jagged, like he was screaming without sound. My apartment shook with the creak of boards, the slam of doors, the scrape of something heavy dragging across the floor. But nothing moved. Nothing I could see. I yanked the plug from the wall. The screen stayed lit. That's when the glass began to bulge. The surface rippled, pushing outward, as if something pressed from inside. His face distorted, stretched, his hand reaching toward me through the fuzz. The smell of burning plastic filled the air as the screen cracked with a high, splitting sound. I stumbled back, tripped over the coffee table, and slammed against the door. My hand fumbled at the knob, too slick with sweat to turn. Behind me, the television groaned. When I dared to look, the screen was shattered. Shards of glass lay on the carpet, smoking. The static was gone. So was he. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. My apartment felt hollow, like something essential had been scooped out. The silence was unbearable, worse than the static had ever been. At dawn, I dragged the broken set to the dumpster outside. I left it there, face down among the trash, and tried to convince myself it was over. But last night, I heard it again. A faint hiss. Not from a TV, from the dark corner of my bedroom. And this time there was no screen between us.